Hello, Starry Snuggler. Tonight's story is about a pair of pajamas that didn't just keep a child warm. They lit up gently in the dark and carried them into the softest dreams. In a little dresser folded neatly between cozy shirts and socks lay a pair of very special pajamas. They looked like ordinary sleepwear, dark blue with tiny silver dots. But when the lights turned off and the room grew still, something magical happened. The silver dots began to sparkle. Not like glitter, not like fireflies, but soft, slow flickers like stars sighing in the dark. A child named Juna discovered them one chilly evening. She pulled them on and they felt just right, warm at the toes, soft at the collar, and light as a whisper. As she lay down, her covers tucked around her, the pajamas began to shimmer. And then the stars on her pajamas slowly lifted, floating like glowing dust. Juna felt her body relax, and suddenly she was drifting. The pajamas weren't just clothes, they were a ship, a starship. She sailed through skies made of velvet, past sleepy clouds and blinking planets. Comets waved hello, and shooting stars twirled in slow, dreamy circles. Her ship made no sound, only a faint hum, like a lullaby wrapped in moonlight. Juna didn't steer. The pajamas knew the way. They carried her to places no one else had ever dreamed, gardens of quiet giggles, lakes of shimmering light, and floating beds of cloud-soft pillows. And when her dream was done, the pajamas gently brought her back to bed, just in time for the morning light to peek through the window. The sparkles faded, but Juna always woke up with the feeling that something magical had happened. And each night, when she put on her starry pajamas, she smiled, ready to fly again. Tonight, when you slip into bed, imagine your pajamas glowing quietly, ready to carry you somewhere beautiful. Good night. Hello, Starlight Sleeper. Tonight's story is about a star. Not one that stayed high above, but one that fell gently into the pocket of a curious little explorer. One evening, just after the sky had turned deep purple, a boy named Theo stood outside in his pajamas, staring at the stars. He loved looking up. He always wondered what it would be like to catch a star and keep it close. That night, as he reached out with a sleepy smile, something tiny and glowing blinked, then drifted down. It floated like a feather, shimmering softly, and landed plop right into the front pocket of Theo's pajama top. It was a baby star, not hot, not bright, just warm and gentle, like a hug made of light. Theo, you're real? The star blinked once, then curled up inside his pocket like it belonged there all along. Theo ran inside and climbed into bed, holding his hand over the little glow in his shirt. That night, something magical happened. As soon as he closed his eyes, the star began to hum, a low, steady tune that only dreams could hear. Suddenly, Theo found himself walking across a sky bridge made of silver string. The star peeked out of his pocket, lighting the way. The star pridged down from Severe, Theo phasing high rest a long life. They floated past sleepy moons reading books. They phased tiptoed along Saturn's rings like a tightrope. They played hopscotch between sleepy constellations. The star never spoke, but Theo always knew where to go. When he grew tired, he lay down on a puff of night cloud, and the star nestled beside him, glowing just enough to make him feel safe. By morning, the star had grown dim, not gone, just resting. Theo gently lifted it from his pocket and placed it on his windowsill. It blinked once, then floated back up into the sky. He waved and "Thank you! Come back any time!" And from that day on, Theo checked his pocket every night, just in case. Tonight, before you close your eyes, check your pocket. There might be a sleepy little star waiting to guide your dreams. Good night. Hi, sleepy friend. Have you ever wondered what a storybook does when everyone is asleep? Tonight you'll find out, because this is the tale of a book that didn't wait for someone to read it. It read itself. On a wooden shelf in a quiet library sat a small red book. Its pages were worn and soft from many tiny hands, and its cover had a little gold star in the corner. But no one had opened it in a very long time. Children didn't visit much anymore, and even the librarian sometimes forgot it was there. But this book wasn't lonely, because every night, when the lights went out, it did something magical. It opened itself. Gently, one page at a time, it let out a warm whisper, not loud, not scary, just soft words floating into the dark. The book read fairy tales to the chairs, adventures to the pencils, and lullabies to the dust floating through the air. Its favorite story was about a bear who painted the moon. One night, a little girl named Nia got lost in the library. She had fallen asleep while reading and woke up in the dark. She was scared at first, until she heard a soft voice, not her own, not anyone else's, but the sound of the book, reading itself aloud. She followed the sound through the shelves until she found it, open, glowing faintly. She sat down beside it, hugged her knees, and listened. The book didn't stop. It told stories until Nia's eyes closed again, and she drifted off, surrounded by stories, held by the warm hum of imagination. Some stories are too patient to stay silent. Maybe tonight, as you sleep, one will read itself just for you. Good night, little listener. Hello, little one. Tonight's story is about a cradle, not pushed by hands or moved by feet, but gently rocked by the soft night wind, just enough to carry a child into the deepest, sweetest dreams.
In a cottage at the edge of a meadow, where the flowers whispered and the stars blinked low, stood an old wooden cradle by a window. It was simple. No wheels, no buttons, no sound, just curved wood, worn smooth from years of love. The cradle belonged to baby Eli. Each evening, when the sky turned purple and the crickets began their quiet songs, his mother would lay him inside with a soft blanket and a kiss. And then she would open the window. That's when the wind would come. Not a strong wind, not a cold wind, a cradle wind, gentle, warm, and just curious enough to play. It would slip through the window like a sigh, curl beneath the cradle, and begin to rock. Back and forth, back and forth. It made no noise. It didn't hurry. But with every soft push, baby Eli's eyelids would grow heavier. Sometimes the wind carried smells from the meadow: lavender, mint, and soft grass. Other times it whispered stories, not with words, but with rhythm. Stories of floating leaves, sleepy bees, and stars who hummed lullabies. Eli never cried in that cradle, not when the wind was there. And when his breath grew deep, the cradle rocked slower, slower, until it stopped. The wind would lift gently, slip back through the window, and leave the room still and sweet with peace. Each night the same, and every time the dreams came softer, deeper, longer. Tonight, if your window is open and the curtains move just a little, maybe the wind is saying, "It's time to rest, little one. I'll rock you into sleep. Good night." Hi there, little one. Tonight's story is about a quiet pair of slippers that had one very special job: to wait and never move until morning came. Beside a small bed in a cozy little room sat a pair of soft worn slippers. They didn't sparkle, they didn't beep or bounce, but they were very good at one thing: waiting. Each night, when the child placed them carefully on the rug, the slippers stayed perfectly still. They didn't wiggle, they didn't wander, they just waited. All through the night, as the moon shone through the curtains, the slippers listened. They heard dreams being whispered. They felt little feet turn under the covers. They counted each breath, soft and slow. The left slipper liked to hum a quiet tune in its mind. "Sleepy feet, don't worry, I'm near." The right slipper liked to imagine what the child might dream of next. Flying elephants? Ticklish stars? A picnic on a cloud? And when morning came, just as the first yawn filled the room, the slippers would perk up inside, ready to be worn again. They didn't mind the wait. They didn't mind the quiet, because being there right where they were needed, was their favorite thing in the world. Tonight, before you fall asleep, peek down at your slippers or shoes. They may not speak, but they're waiting for you to sleep, to dream, and to walk into a brand new day. Sweet dreams, little traveler. Hello, Cozy Toes. Tonight's story is about a special pair of socks, not just warm and fuzzy, but magical, because once you put them on, they carried you straight into dreamland. In the bottom drawer of a little dresser, under folded pajamas and soft shirts, lay a pair of socks. They weren't flashy, not striped or sparkly, just plain blue with tiny white dots near the heels. Dots that glowed faintly in the dark, like little stars. A child named Eli found them one chilly evening when his feet felt extra wiggly and his thoughts just wouldn't slow down. He pulled them on, right foot first, then left. The socks were warm, but not too warm, tight, but not too tight. Perfect. As soon as Eli lay back in bed and pulled the covers up to his chin, something wonderful happened. The socks began to tingle, just a little, as if to his toes. Then, ever so gently, they started to move. Not loudly, not quickly, but slowly, like footsteps made of clouds. Eli's feet didn't leave the bed, but in his dreams he was walking. With each breath, the socks carried him through glowing meadows of whispering grass, across pebble paths that giggled softly underfoot, and up hills that sparkled with nighttime flowers. The socks knew the way. They never tripped. They never rushed. They simply led him deeper and deeper into dreamland. There he met gentle creatures who wore scarves made of stardust. He danced on pillows that floated like boats. He tiptoed across bridges made of music. And when the night grew still and quiet, the socks slowed, curled, and stopped beneath a dream tree that hummed the softest lullaby. By morning, the socks had stopped glowing. They were just socks again, cozy and still. But Eli smiled because his feet remembered the places they had been. And every night after that, when the stars appeared, he reached for those socks. So tonight, if your feet feel extra wiggly, find your softest pair of socks. Maybe they'll walk you gently into a dream of your very own. Good night. Intro. Hello, gentle dream traveler. Tonight's story is about a bed. Not an ordinary one, but a bed that once the world grew quiet, lifted softly into the night sky, carrying its little sleeper wherever dreams were waiting. In a quiet room with a soft nightlight and a sleepy hum in the air, there stood a small bed with 4 cozy corners, a patchwork quilt, and a pillow fluffed just right. It belonged to a boy named Leo. Leo loved his bed, not just because it was warm, but because it could float. Not every night, only the most peaceful ones. On those nights when Leo was calm and his breathing was slow, the bed would gently rise, just an inch at first, then another and another, until the legs no longer touched the floor and the whole bed drifted like a cloud in the middle of the room. The quilt would glow faintly, and the pillow would whisper, "Hold still now, we're going dreamy." Through the window they'd float, silent and safe, up past the rooftops and the treetops, higher than the chimneys, past the birds asleep in their nests. The sky would open like a sleepy sea, and stars would wave slowly as Leo's bed sailed by. He visited floating islands of silence, met sleepy stargazers who only spoke in yawns, and once passed a moon made entirely of soft socks and bedtime stories. The bed always knew when to return. As morning crept over the hills, it would gently glide back down, settling with the faintest sigh on the floor, right where it had started. Leo never told anyone, not because it was a secret, but because he didn't need to. Each night he'd climb in, hug his blanket close, and wait to feel that first gentle lift. So, tonight, when you lie in bed, be very still. Maybe, just maybe, your bed will float too. Good night. Hi, little one. Are you ready to drift into dreamland? Tonight's story is about a gentle wind who had a very special job: to collect wishes whispered before bedtime. In the quiet hills behind a sleepy village, there lived a wind named Wilo. Wilo wasn't a big wind. He didn't roar through trees or push open windows. He was soft, a whisper kind of wind. But Wilo had an important job. Every night, when stars began to twinkle and the moon peeked over the hills, children across the village would whisper their wishes. Some into their pillows, some into their blankets, and some out loud into the night air. And Wilo, he would listen. He floated gently from window to window, gathering each wish like a firefly, carrying them carefully through the sky. I wish for a puppy. I wish my brother has sweet dreams. I wish I could fly. Wilo didn't grant wishes. That wasn't his job. But he kept them safe. He tucked them gently into the folds of the clouds, or hid them inside sleepy tree branches where they glowed softly all night long. One evening, Wilo stopped by the house of a little girl named Tessa. She was standing at her window with her teddy bear. She closed her eyes and whispering, "I wish that someone will listen to my wish." Wilo paused. He spun in a small circle, just enough to tickle her cheek. Tessa giggled, then fell calm, like someone had heard her, because someone had. Wilo carried that special wish all the way to the stars. He placed it on a silver moonbeam and watched it shine brighter than all the others. Tonight, if you whisper your wish before sleep, listen closely. You might feel a soft breeze passing by your cheek. That's just Wilo doing his job. Good night, wish maker. Hello again, sleepy friend. Tonight's story is about a pair of tiny shoes that didn't move during the day, but danced, skipped, and wandered far once dreams began. In a quiet corner of a little room sat a pair of soft shoes. They were not shiny. They weren't new. They had no laces, no lights, no squeaks. But they had something special inside them. Dream steps. You see, these shoes had been worn by many children before, and every time they carried a child through dreams, they remembered. They remembered puddles made of stars, clouds that bounced, and playgrounds built in the sky. Now they belonged to a girl named Mira. Each morning, Mira would slip them on and shuffle around the house. They didn't go fast. They didn't make much noise. They were just shoes. But at night, once Mira climbed into bed, closed her eyes, and drifted off, the shoes woke up. Very quietly, they wiggled their soles, stretched their tiny tongues, and tiptoed to the edge of the bed. And then they lifted into the air, one step, then two, and waited for Mira's dream to begin. In her dream, Mira would find herself walking through gardens that glowed in the dark, where butterflies wore pajamas and trees told bedtime jokes. The shoes always knew where to go. Sometimes they led her over dream bridges that swayed gently over lullaby rivers. Sometimes they took her across soft sand that hummed with sleepy melodies. Sometimes they just walked beside her, step by step, while the stars above blinked in rhythm. Mira never tripped, never got lost, because the shoes remembered every dream they had ever visited. And when the dream was done, and morning light kissed the sky, the shoes quietly returned to the corner, still, soft, silent, waiting for the next adventure. So tonight, if your shoes are resting by your bed, thank them gently. They just might be waiting for your dream to begin. Good night.
Hello there, sleepy one. Are your eyes getting heavy? Let's take a quiet journey tonight, a soft little adventure beneath the stars, where the moon has something to say just for you. In the quiet sky, where stars whispered and clouds tiptoed, the moon had a secret. She liked to write letters. Not with a pen, not with paper, but with soft beams of light sent down to earth, where only those who were truly calm could read them. Down below, in a small house at the edge of the hill, lived a girl named Talia. She loved looking at the moon every night from her bed, and often wondered, what would the moon say if it could talk? One especially still night, as the wind hushed and the trees stopped swaying, a gentle line of light appeared on Talia's wall. It curved, then dipped, then stretched, forming soft, glowing words. "Hello, dreamer." Talia sat up, her eyes wide. She wasn't afraid. The light felt warm and kind. Another line appeared. "I see your thoughts when you look at me." Each night after that, the moon wrote again. One letter said, "Don't worry, your dreams are safe." Another said, "You are not small. You are deep and full of stars." And one night, when Talia had a hard day and tears touched her pillow, the wall glowed with just one word, "Here." Talia smiled, wiped her cheeks, and whispered back, "I'm here too." That night, her dreams were filled with moonbeams shaped like words, carrying messages across the sky to children just like her. And the moon? She kept writing, quietly, softly, every night. So, if you ever see the moonlight stretch across your room, maybe it's not just light. Maybe it's a letter just for you. Good night, little dreamer.